on vinyl community? Welcome to another video with the Record Spinner. In today's video, I'm going to be doing another vinyl haul video. This time I'm going to be covering all the records that I have acquired within the months of March and April of 2018. If you follow me on social media, whether it be on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, I have shown these records off, but to those of you that just catch me only on YouTube, I am going to be showing these records off, pointing some fun facts about the particular pressings, and point out some notable tracks off of them. So, hope you guys enjoy it. I did not realize how big this haul was until I pulled out all the records that I was going to show. So this video might run a little bit on length. So with that said, please just sit back, relax, and enjoy my most recent vinyl acquisitions. So the first one that I'm going to show you, I picked this up early in the month of March, and that is Paul McCartney's first solo album, simply called McCartney. This is notable for having the song Maybe I'm Amazed and the song Junk, but for the most part, this album kind of took me by surprise. I didn't really know too much about it, so it was a bit of a kind of instinct buy. It was relatively inexpensive. I used my cashback bonus points on this, and then I just paid whatever what the difference was, which was not a lot. Overall, I really love the homemade lo-fi kind of feel for this album. Kind of different for a Beatles first solo album of sorts, but I do love this album very much. Here's the back cover right here, and I do have to say I do love the artwork on this album. All the photos taken by Linda McCartney. Just really, really nice. This is a recent reissue that has come out recently. McCartney has been putting out reissues of his solo works. Not particularly every single one chronologically, but like they'll release some here, some there. And overall, I was very pleased with it. They did use the 2010 digital remasters, which to my ears sound very nice. Up next are some records that I actually picked up at a Kansas show. They played down at the Borgata in Atlantic City, and I took a look at the merch booth, and I saw that there was some vinyl, so I said, hey, I had to have it. And believe it or not, considering what this is, the price was ridiculous. Ridiculous in a good way. Whether it was an intentional thing to price at this price, or someone messed up and put the wrong price sign up, I don't care, because it was probably one of the biggest deals I had encountered in a long time. This is Leftoverture Live and Beyond. This is the latest release and live album from Kansas. This album features the album Leftoverture Live in its entirety, along with some other tracks dating back to... How far back this goes? This goes back to the first album, tracks from Songs from America, Mask, and including their most recent studio effort, Prelude Implicit. Sounds very nice, pressed well, sounds great. This was $25. Soak that in real quick. I went on Amazon after I bought this and saw it was going for like 50 bucks, so I thought, holy crap, this is insane. So, very pleased with it. Good sounding recording, and it was done very well. This was actually produced by Jeff Glicksman, who produced a lot of the early Kansas records. So I think if you have, you know, someone that is looked at with high regard in terms of production when it comes to these Kansas albums, it's done very nicely. Up next, this was sold as well, and I'll give a little bit of a backstory with this. This right here is an album by a band called Native Window. Now, if you think back to Kansas circa 2008, it's literally everyone in the band except for Steve Walsh. Steve Walsh had a thing where he wasn't going to be doing any more writing or doing more studio work. So the remaining guys in Kansas just decided to form this side project. So you have Phil Ehart on drums, you have Rich Williams on guitar, David Ragsdale on the violin, and then you have Billy Greer on bass and vocals. This record has a lot of traces of that classic Kansas sound, but with a bit of a twist, so you can really hear the differences. Overall, I thought it was pretty enjoyable. I was into it very much. This came out in 2008. I was aware of this album, but I never really gave it a listen until I picked this copy up. And I don't know if you can tell, but some people smudged on the cover. I don't know what that's all about. I'm just kidding. The guy signed it. Very cool, and it's just nice to have a piece of autographed vinyl. Good stuff. Now, this next part of the haul is what I like to call the income tax vinyl haul. This is some money that I got with my income tax return. I didn't blow it all. It's always important to set aside some money for that rainy day, but I figured, hey, I have some cash, might as well spend it. So, right off the bat first, we have Hendrix in the West. Now, this is a live album which brings together recordings from different shows that Hendrix did. I know Winterland from '68 is on this. There's some bits from the Isle of Wight Festival. Overall, very well. The track listing is great. And like all Hendrix reissues, I mean, the packaging is done very nicely. Everything's replicated. Nice rice paper sleeves. Really nice audiophile quality. And it also features a really nice book talking about the album and the recordings and what came from where and who did what and everything. This is it's actually cool to see this album redone because this came out in 1972, and a lot of the Hendrix stuff that came out after he died in the 70s is kind of looked down upon, I guess for the most part, in the later 70s. I know albums like Cry of Love and Rainbow Bridge are okay, but it is cool, and I think this is probably a definitive Hendrix live album, so you can get little pieces of everything from different shows and stuff. So overall, it was a very good listen. Up next is an album that I actually covered on my vinyl tag video that I did several weeks ago. This is the Gene Simmons solo album from 1978. Like I said in that video, the Demon Persona is on the cover, but not on this record. Gene has a really heavy Beatles influence on this album, and that's kind of reason why I like this record, because I am a big Beatles fan, and I like what Gene does when he tries to take on, those Lennon-McCartney vocal styles and melodies and chord sequences. So very good album overall. I don't know if you can call it a guilty pleasure. It's just really, really good fun, and I really do enjoy it. This is another reissue. This does come with the poster, which I will showcase. And there you go. There's the poster right there. And as you can see, there's the cutouts. So you can connect up the other posters from the other albums as well. So that was cool. And the Kiss reissues, again, I highly recommend them. They sound absolutely excellent. Just really, really good quality stuff. Up next, we have a bit of shift in terms of styles, because I just showed you the previous records, and then this is going to be a little bit different. This is Dream Theater's Images and Words. To describe Dream Theater overall, they're kind of like a heavy metal Yes of sorts. This came out back in 1992. This is notable for having their only hit song, Pull Me Under, on it, but there's other songs on this record, such as Metropolis, Under a Glass Moon, Take the Time, Surrounded, that make this a excellent standout progressive metal album. Just absolutely love it. Really good stuff. Up next, we continue the progressive rock trend. This is Rush's Caress of Steel, and as big of a Rush fan I am, this is an album that of course I'm aware of. I mean, it's notable for having tracks like Bastille Day and Lakeside Park, but in terms of some of the longer pieces like the Necromancer and the Fountain of Lamneth, it was quite the listen, and they might have been on something. I don't know, it just really sounds it on this record, but overall, enjoyable, and you can kind of hint on what they're trying to do with what would become their next album, which became 2112, and that's a whole other story. This is a 2015 reissue, which is pressed on 200-gram vinyl, and it sounds very, very well. Up next is a record that I kind of had my eye on for a while. I didn't pick this up when it came out. I kind of waited around a bit, and I figured it's been some time, and I really wanted to snag it to hear it for myself. This is Wild Honey by the Beach Boys. This was them trying to kind of get back to their roots after they did the whole Smile thing and how that project kind of crumbled, and then they did Smiley Smile. This was an attempt to kind of get back home and get back to the real core of the Beach Boys stuff. I love this record very, very much. My earliest recollection of this album was a CD. It's kind of nicknamed a twofer, which included the albums Smiley Smile and this album, Wild Honey. So this is kind of very R&B influenced, and just I remember growing a really nice fondness for this album. There's a lot of weirdly tuned piano, organ. The vocal melodies are always on point, and it just sounds absolutely incredible. This is actually a stereo remix. The album was originally released in mono back in 1967, but the who did the remixing? Mark Lennett and Alan Boyd are kind of like the Beach Boy audio gurus, and they work their magic to make a very nice stereo mix that sounds pretty faithful to the original mono mix. So very well, very much recommended, I would say. And up next is another album, like I said with the Beach Boys one. It's one that I've been aware of, and I just really wanted to get a vinyl copy of it. And that is Black Sabbath's 13. I remember when this first came out. I got the CD copy back when it came out in 2013, and I love it. I mean, for what it is, this is probably going to be the last Black Sabbath studio album. Features Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, Ozzy Osbourne. So you have a trio of the classic lineup, but you have Brad Wilk on drums from, I think he was in Rage Against the Machine, I believe. Good record. The riffs are great. Sounds really, really great. Rick Rubin produced this. I feel like any album that Rick Rubin does is kind of a victim of the loudness war kind of thing. So a lot of like his stuff sounds a bit compressed and a bit hot in terms of the mastering. But I think the vinyl copy did benefit very well. Chris Bellman mastered this, and whenever he does stuff, it sounds pretty good to my ears. So very well done, Black Sabbath 13. Now up next, that was the Income Tax Vinyl Haul right there, that selection of records. What I'm going to show you, these next two albums are some stuff that was selling at my store and I wanted to pick up. This one right here is Dio's Holy Diver. This is his first solo album. Of course, this is Ronnie James Dio of both Rainbow and Black Sabbath fame. This is a very excellent 80s metal album. You have tracks like the title track Holy Diver, Stand Up and Shout, Rainbow in the Dark, just absolutely excellent. Cool thing with this is a recent reissue that was done earlier this year, and it comes on very nice red vinyl. Sounds great. This is part of Rhino's Start Your Ear Off Right campaign, and very well pleased with it, I'd have to say. And this was another album that I was never really too huge on, but I was always aware of it, and I figured, you know what, might as well experience it, because I do like Dio, and I love his vocal style, and his solo stuff in general is pretty good. So I figured, why not? Now, this next album is a bit of an oddity in some cases. I kind of had a hard time justifying this record, and I'll explain the reason why. This is Metallica's latest album. This is Hardwired to Self-Destruct. This came out back in 2016. I'll never forget the day that this album came out. The store where I work at, we were, of course, sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied. We sold so many copies of this, and we could not keep it on the shelves. Like, I never saw an album release date so big in my life. Now I'm going to explain why this particular record was kind of a, I had to think about it. It's all down to the color of the vinyl. I don't know a lot of people that associate the color pink with Metallica. This is the 10 bands, 1 cause pressing. This the proceeds that are made in the records that are pressed for this campaign benefit breast cancer. So this is limited, I think, to a couple thousand copies. And from what I was able to find out, of all the vinyl pressings of this album, this is the most valuable. Because there is a standard black vinyl pressing. There is a box set version that comes on colored vinyl. Like, I think there's like yellow vinyl, blue vinyl, and red vinyl. There was a Record Store Day version that was done on red vinyl, but this pink version seems to be going for a bit more. And for the price that I got it for, it was marked on clearance, 50% off whatever the sale price was. So I think I ended up paying like 12 bucks for this. It's ridiculous. And I thought for that price, might as well look into it, see what it sounds like. And overall, I was very pleased with it. I would say kind of runs in the same vein as Death Magnetic, but with better production value, I think, to me. So, well recommended. Up next was kind of an instinct buy. I was kind of going to wait on it for a little bit, but I kind of had the shopper's blood in me, and I'm like, you know what? Screw it. This is the latest studio offering from Jimi Hendrix. This is Both Sides of the Sky. This is the last album in a trilogy of albums that have come out recently, which gather up any remaining unreleased material in the Hendrix vaults, and they still managed to find some great stuff. Some alternate versions of some notable songs, such as Loverman, Hear My Train A-Comin', Power of Soul, things like that. But there's some stuff that he does with Stephen Stills on this, and it sounds very, very well, and just a lot of variety, I think. Even down to the last track on this record, which is called Cherokee Mist, which is kind of like a sitar-based kind of instrumental. Sounds very good. The cool thing with some of the Hendrix stuff that's put out recently on vinyl is that they'll actually number up the first pressing of 5,000. And so my copy is numbered. And I don't know if you can make that out, but that's 3,836. So I figured for that, it's the first press of it. You know, might as well. And overall, very pleased with it. Up next was an album that I saw that dropped in price on Amazon. I think this dropped to like about $11, and I do like the early stuff that this band had put out, so I figured, hey, kind of essential. This is Motley Crue's Too Fast for Love. This is their first album. Really great slab of 80s hair glam metal. Tracks like Live Wire, Take Me to the Top, Come On and Dance, just really cool. This is a recent reissue, and I don't know if you can really tell, but it's actually intended to give off that ragged-edged kind of style artwork, so it looks a little beat up in places, but that's actually intentional. The album is designed that way. This is mastered by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio, and which is surprising, because I wouldn't really label Motley Crue as an audiophile band, but hey, why not? And it sounds very good, very punchy. The bass is really nice, and the kick drum especially is really booming on this pressing. So really, really cool stuff. Up next is a record that I did an entire video on this channel. I reviewed the album and I kind of showed off the vinyl, and that is Boarding House Reach by Jack White. Everything that I want to say about this album is in the review, but if you don't want to peel back and check it out, this right here is a great 21st century rock album. You got all kinds of elements. You got a little bit of hip-hop, a little bit of soul, a little bit of country, a little bit of garage rock. You just got everything together, and it makes this record. This is really, really great. I know this album was kind of skeptical at first to some fans, but I made sure to keep an open mind when it came to listening to it. And I really loved it, and just I think because I had open ears meant that I appreciated this album much, much more. So really, really great stuff. New Jack White album. Now, these next two records, I was kind of on the fence of getting these. I remember we sold them at the store that I work at, and a customer had bought them, and I'm like, it's not the end of the world. But then they brought them back, still sealed. So they were sellable. So I'm like, you know what? Might as well. Now, I'm sure a lot of viewers are probably going to be like, Dylan, what the hell? I do have a soft spot for the Monkees. Despite it being what it is, just like a, TV boy band, and that didn't really play on the records too much, it's 60s pop. Sounds great. I do like it, and it is fun to listen to. This is their second album, More of the Monkees. This is infamous for kind of being released without the band's knowledge or approval. The cover is It's a photo advertising JCPenney's clothes, which they were not too happy about. But this has, what's on this? I'm a Believer, I'm Not Your Stepping Stone, She, Mary Mary. It's just fun. And then up next, we also have their subsequent follow-up. This is Headquarters. This is the first case where they actually played on the records, which when you listen to it, you can kind of tell it's them playing because the instrumentation is kind of spotty in places, particularly in the drums. I think Mickey Dolenz was the drummer, whereas Michael Nesmith and Peter Tork were the proper musicians in the band. But overall, pretty good nonetheless. Shades of Grey, Randy Scousket, let's see, For Pete's Sake is on this. You Just May Be the One. I like it. It's not bad. Like I said, I do have a soft spot for the Monkees. Just great fun to listen to. Then up next, these were just kind of random buys from Amazon. Just, you know, looking at prices, seeing what went up, what went down, what to kind of go for while the moment's hot. This is AC/DC's Let There Be Rock. This came out in 1977. This is, I would say, an essential AC/DC album to own. Has a lot of the early classics on here. Like, you have the title track, you have Problem Child, Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be, Whole Lotta Rosie, Bad Boy Boogie. This is an overall raunchy rock and roll record, and it is absolutely excellent on every single level. Excellent. Then we have some more Crue. This is Shout at the Devil. I would say this is probably my favorite Crue record. I think this was the first Motley Crue album I ever heard. This, of course, features the title track, Looks to Kill. Their cover of Helter Skelter is great. Red Hot, 10 Seconds to Love. Sounds excellent. I don't know if you can see the star design on the cover. Sorry for the glare. I don't know if you can really catch that. And then again, with this reissue, kind of gives off a bit of that beaded edge kind of thing, which is kind of cool, I guess, for aesthetic, but for someone with OCD, they probably look at it and be like, oh my god, it's ruined. But I kind of got what they were going for. Up next is a classic rock staple, and that is Styx's Grand Illusion. This, along with Pieces of Eight, are the essential Styx records. You have Come Sail Away, you have the title track Grand Illusion, Fooling Yourself, Miss America, Man in the Wilderness, Castle Walls. This is excellent. This is a recent reissue. Sounds great. Very full. And the one thing that I love about this pressing is something that I was really hoping would be replicated for the sake of having all the inserts and everything. And that is the poster that came with the original album. I just absolutely love it. It's excellent. So there's that, and I think I scored this for like $13, and I thought, hey, why not for a new piece of vinyl? And up next were some records that I kind of felt that I had to buy before they were going to go out of print, and I'll explain why. We have the Paul Stanley and Peter Criss solo albums. Now, weird thing with the Kiss vinyl reissues, there is a Kiss podcast that I listen to called Three Sides of the Coin, and one of the guests that they have on the show is a guy by the name of Tom Shannon. And he kind of worked behind the scenes on the Kiss reissues that were done in 2014, as well as some stuff that was done for their 7-inch vinyl box set. And he says that Paul Stanley and Peter Criss' solo albums were out of print. And I did some research online, and I saw that some high prices were going for these things. So I found a company called youdiscovermusic.com that were selling these for about $13.99, and I pretty much had to pay for shipping on each of them, so they kind of equivalated to about $20. And I had to wait a little bit, about like 4 weeks or so for them, but it was well worth it because I can finally say that my 78 Kiss solo album collection, because I do have Ace Frehley's album as well, is complete, so I don't have to worry about scounging up a lot of money to pay for these. This one right here is probably, this along with Gene's album is tied to be the second or third favorite. Ace's is first. This is really great. Paul has a little bit of more balladry on this album, so you kind of get a little bit of that sentimental side to him, but overall, the Star Child can never do wrong. really great. This comes with a poster as well. And then, this is the least favorite. No disrespect to Peter. I know he was really going for that kind of Motown kind of sound to it. It's okay. I mean, that's honestly all I can say. There are some really great grooving tracks, though, like the version of Tossin' and Turnin' on this is good. Hooked on Rock and Roll, it's just that classic swing-based kind of rock and roll. Not like swing, but just it has that Peter Criss feel to it. Pretty good, though, nonetheless. Take a little break. I'm talking a lot. Anyways, this next one is Big Generator by Yes. This is the band's second album for the 80s. Actually, no, it's the third album because Drama was 1980. Then he had 90125 in 83. This is from 1987. This kind of continues this sort of feel from 90125, but I feel like they don't really get there too much with this album. The songs are good, but just there was a lot of turmoil going on in the band, and I feel like it kind of shows on this record. It's decent in places, honestly. You got Rhythm of Love, Shoot High, Aim Low, Love Will Find a Way, Finalize, Holy Lamb. Like, this is pretty good. Pretty good piece of 80s Yes right here. Then this one was a pretty good steal. This went down to like $10, which is surprising because it normally goes for more, and it is a double. That is South Saturn Delta by Jimi Hendrix. Now, this was interesting because it wasn't necessarily an album, like a compiled album of sorts. This kind of gathers up some demos, some alternate versions and mixes of stuff, and some just different versions of songs and some other stuff that was off of those 70s era albums. It's pretty enjoyable. I'm getting more into Hendrix as time is going on, and I'm getting more and more of his releases. So I see this as like a different view of his legacy. That's just my opinion. But I think this is one for kind of the diehards, and it's an interesting, different way to see his music at. Then up next we have Changes to Bowie. Now, I did a live stream on this record because it was pressed on either black or blue vinyl, and if you saw my live stream, it's on my channel. I ended up getting the black version. Now, I was kind of feeling a little risky, and not risky in a bad way, but like I was kind of feeling the urge to see what else was there in terms of this record. So the store that I work at had a couple copies, and I just decided, you know what, I'm going to buy another one just to see what happens. And if you follow me on social media, I did talk about this, but for those that are seeing this for the first time, got the blue copy. Sounds no different to the black. This is just the more valuable version out there. They're selling these blue vinyl copies for pretty ridiculous amounts of money. But, you know, it's great. The compilation itself is pretty decent. You get some tracks that were left over from, like, the first Changes period. Changes 1 Bowie, which covers 69 to 76. And then you also get a little dash of some of the stuff that came out after that album. So this is a pretty good listen if you want to kind of hear a revamped Bowie playlist of sorts. Up next was something that dropped in price to about $17, which was about 50% what the average price is. It was out of stock, and I placed an order on it. And I never really placed orders on Amazon that were out of stock, but I would hope that I would get charged the lowest price. I was always kind of skeptical on it for some reason, which I don't know why. But I figured, try it out once, and turned out I did get charged the lowest price, which is nice because I've been really wanting this for a long time. This is Kiss Rocks Vegas. This covers their 2014 Vegas residency. Absolutely killer. This is the recent lineup of Stanley, Simmons, Tommy Thayer, and Eric Singer. They bring just a whole new breath of life to those classic songs. and it's evident on this release. If you really want to track down this record, please do, because it is excellent and you will not be disappointed. Overall, the track listing is what you come to expect. It's all the Kiss hits and, and more. And so you got things like, of course, Detroit Rock City, Creatures of the Night, Psycho Circus, Parasite, War Machine, Love It Loud, Lick It Up. It's everything that you come to expect when it comes to these guys live on stage. Very, very good. Up next are some records that I picked up where I work at. We ran a vinyl sale, a weird vinyl sale that is. Buy two, get one 25% off. Sounds a bit odd, but hey, when there's a vinyl sale, you jump on it. So right off the bat was a piece of vinyl that I've been trying to add to my collection for a while, and that is Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses. To my eyes, their legacy lies in this record. I know that there's Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, and then there was Chinese Democracy and the Spaghetti Incident. But it's all down to this record. This is one of the best debut albums of all time. Every song on here is great. You have Welcome to the Jungle, Night Train, Mr. Brownstone, Out to Get Me. Like, this just embodies everything to do with that badass rock and roll gritty mentality. Like, this is just an excellent example of that. Really, really great, and it's a must-have for any vinyl collector and music lover. Up next, we also have the self-titled Nirvana compilation. This is a recent reissue that came out a couple years back. The compilation itself came out around 2002, I believe. And honestly, this compilation is awesome in every sense. There's no filler. You get all the hits, all the notable songs, all in one package, and it's just superb. You get one new track on here, which is called You Know You're Right, but then you get About a Girl, Been a Son, Teen Spirit, Come As You Are, Lithium, the usual stuff. Rounds it off with some stuff from the Unplugged show. Absolutely excellent. Very, very well done. And then we have Live at the Hollywood Bowl by the Beatles. This is the complement to the documentary 8 Days a Week, and pretty much the only proper Beatles live album that captures them on stage. I found myself, when it came to listening to this, like, I would really be interested, like, really focused on the music, but once, like, they hit the chorus or a bridge or something, you just hear this massive scream coming from the girls in the audience. And honestly, I feel like this album just would not feel right if it didn't have that excitement coming from the crowd, because it really captures them in the, like, Beatlemania time frame. This is excellent. This album overall came out first back in 1977, and George Martin did whatever he could to really salvage these recordings. But luckily, with technology being so advanced, his son Giles Martin went back and brought the band out a bit more, tried to hide a little bit of the audience ambience, and just sounds pretty remarkable considering what had to be probably done to bring this record to the public. So really worth investigating if you want to hear the Beatles live. The performances are very raw, and it's excellent. It captures them on top form on the live stage. Up next is another recent reissue. This actually just came out fairly recently, and that is Jethro Tull's Heavy Horses. This right here is kind of their second album in a trilogy of albums that kind of see them getting into some of the more folk rock type stuff. The title track of this album is great, Heavy Horses, Acres Wild, No Lullaby, Moths. I would say this album, along with Songs from the Wood, are my favorite Jethro Tull records. And I'll show with this, all the Jethro Tull reissues are done very, very nicely. They all come with a very nice book, printed on nice cardstock paper. Include some photos and liner notes talking about the record, and just really gives great insights on everything that was going on at the time when the album was out. Now, if you have made it through this entire video, I applaud you, because we are at the last record that I'm going to show you. And that is the self-titled Iron Maiden album. This is an album that I've been really wanting for a long time, and I'm just like, hey, might as well buy a copy. This is a standard. I mean, this album is a true gem. Despite the production kind of being a little bit on the punky side, this album is great for having tracks like Prowler, Phantom of the Opera, the title track, Iron Maiden, Running Free, just absolutely great stuff. Paul Di'Anno was the vocalist on this album, as well as the next album, Killers, and then he left after that. I really love the stuff that Paul Di'Anno sings with them. I love Bruce Dickinson, and he is the definitive singer, but there's something really special about this album as well as Killers, so really glad to own this as well. So that right there is my vinyl haul for March and April of 2018. Quite a massive one. I don't know if I could ever top this. This was insane, and I am so glad to have these albums to add to my collection. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel. See you guys in the next video, and most importantly, keep the record spinning.